Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital Accessibility Liaisons meeting. I'm Alejandra Dash, your wonderful host, and welcome to the show. All right, so today I put in possible speaker, Lauren. I'm very sorry. I wasn't sure if you were coming, but I will write you in. And your talk will be on web development, right? Okay.
Web content accessibility guidelines.
Okay. All right, so we've got a couple of things going on today. Lauren will be talking to us about web content accessibility guidelines, and we also have some general updates, and we've got a couple of things to talk about, which I'll turn the mic over to Nate once that happens. And then if you haven't already, if you are a registered liaison, please fill out your liaison confirmation form so that I know that you want to be a liaison. This is really helpful because when we have conversations, like we're having a good conversation about template accessibility for the brand, and I had to find the right contact in that unit, and I could find them because they confirmed. So thank you. I was very grateful for that. So let's see. So where could we begin? Let's Lauren, would you like to start? And then I'll stop sharing and that way you can do your thing. And would that be
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Okay,
that's totally fine. I
great.
don't think I'm gonna go for too long, but I'll try not to ramble too much here. Dun dun dun. Okay, let me pull this back up and
And I
share.
spotlighted you so people could find you.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Slideshow, presenter view. Oh, oh, and I did not start that from the beginning, naturally. Can you guys see the presentation?
Nope, we just see you.
Oh, you just see me. Oh, it's
Mhm.
because I haven't clicked share yet. There we go. How about now? Yep.
Yes, looking good.
Yes.
Bingo.
Okay, great. Yeah. So this is going to be kind of a presentation on web content accessibility guidelines. Also kind of a um just kind of presentation on things I've been learning as far as accessibility go, and how some of these guidelines apply to things that I see here at ASU. So yeah, next slide. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, got it. There we go. Okay, so who I am. My name is Lauren Lullo. I've been with ASU for a little bit over 6 years now, so all with research technology support. So we're within the research technology office within the knowledge enterprise. Was trying to think of a easier way to say that, but there it is. I've been a accessibility liaison only since April of last year, so this has been a lot of fun for me. Definitely in some of those, times when we hit a lull with the help desk. It's given me a lot of interesting things to dive into. Just to name a few, obviously accessible hardware, learning about what some of those devices are because a lot of it's totally foreign to me. Structuring different documents. Won't go on that. Won't go on about that too much here because I'll talk more about that on the next slides. Ultimately, kind of what makes me care so much, I mean, what's been so interesting about this has been just kind of looking at things in a different light. And, in IT, it's easy for us to kind of see a ticket come in and, you know, not really feel um not really feel, that it's a person, it's someone who needs help. A lot of times it's, Monday morning, you see it come in, it's just another ticket. But it really is, every ticket is someone who's either stuck or left out. Yeah. And these guidelines obviously help us kind of design our content, if it's courses or anything else we put out, so that everyone can use them, understand them. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the boring slide. What is WCAG? I'm not gonna get too deep into this version versus that version. I think as long as we have the kind of concept that it evolves as our technology evolves is the main theme I want to communicate here. Yes. So it is the international standards for digital content. It's created by the World Wide Web Consortium, which I had heard a million times in my life, wasn't too familiar with what they did. So I learned a little bit about, what they do, and that's basically, publishing standards for the internet. So not only do they give us these web content accessibility guidelines, but they also give us standards for HTML and things like ARIA attributes. So we're able to meet those guidelines. So kind of the tools along with, the structure that's there to tell us what we're supposed to be doing. Um, it is these guidelines are built around the POUR principles, POUR. We'll talk about these on a future slide. Um, like I said before, these guidelines are constantly evolving. It's as our technology changes, we have to keep up with that and make sure that we keep things accessible to everyone. Let's see here. So used worldwide. Dun, dun. The foundation for most accessibility laws and policies. We'll talk about this a little bit more too. But this is also, a legal thing. So um, it's not just, everyone be nice and accessible. It is serious. So whenever anyone wants to kind of write off accessibility or treat it like it's not something that matters, it absolutely matters on many levels. The human level and the legal level. Um, yeah, so anyway, I put down here the ADA. So the ADA is the law. This was another thing, the Americans with Disabilities Act, that obviously I had heard of, hadn't done a ton of research on, but just kind of thought it was interesting to kind of see the development from um, before the Americans with Disabilities Act, when we had the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which, if you're not familiar with that, Section 504 is often discussed, which basically was what told federal entities, hey, if you take federal money, you need to meet these accessibility guidelines. And then the ADA, which came about after that, I believe 1990 was when it became comprehensive, and it was like, okay, this isn't just federal funded entities anymore. This is everywhere. Okay, so I think I've rambled on about that enough. Um, so let's go next. Yeah, so why it matters here at ASU. A lot of this is pretty obvious. We serve a huge, diverse community, people from all over, all different walks of life's abilities. Kind of in essence, what makes ASU ASU, what makes it great, inclusivity and helping everyone succeed, regardless of if there's some small barrier standing in their way. So yeah, accessible content ensures everyone can fully participate. I like to think about the example of like, you have someone with like this brilliant mind with so much to contribute, and they're stopped by something as stupid as a keyboard or a mouse, an input device. Like just how like a little barrier like that, once upon a time stood in the way of so many great people being able to be involved. So that's definitely something we want to continue to avoid. Um, these guidelines keep us aligned with policy and legal requirements, obviously. Proactive accessibility, just like proactive anything, saves us time in the future. Fewer fixes, fewer people left feeling left out or lost. Because we, never want that happening from a human standpoint first, and obviously from a legal standpoint. But it's just best to take care of this stuff proactively. And then, yeah, obviously, we need to ensure if it's obviously for saying obviously a lot, for things like course content, we need to make sure that it works across different browsers, devices, assistive tools. Yeah, so that's for, developers, all of us really. We just always have to kind of keep these things in mind and think about the people when we're making this stuff, what those people might be using. Um, Yeah, so some of the benefits, a little bit redundant here, but creates a shared standard for accessibility, helps more people receive regardless of ability, prevents digital barriers before they happen. So, I mean, if we meet these digital accessibility guidelines, we can, be accessible before people even get to ASU, and present ASU as an accessible place that would be welcoming. So, guides how we design courses, documents, and digital content. I'll talk about this a little bit on a future slide. Okay, so moving on. We talked about those core principles. I'm just going to go through them quickly here. So these are basically what these web content accessibility guidelines are built around. Content can be seen, heard, or otherwise sensed. So that means, seen with our eyes, heard, or sensed with some kind of screen reader. Interfaces must be operable. So, again, with the assistive tech, they need to work, say if I only have a keyboard or if I'm using a sip and puff device or voice control or et cetera, et cetera. Understandable content and navigation should make sense. This goes into kind of like reading order, if you're familiar with PDF structure, um, anything like that, or HTML, headings, actual structure, not just visible structure like bold text. And it must be robust. So works with current and future technologies, including all of the assistive tech that we see here. Okay, moving on. Common issues I see at ASU, and when I say common issues I see at ASU, I more so mean common things that I've seen myself doing and never really thought about before. I broke them up into three categories. So structural issues, PDFs using print to PDF. This is something I used to do probably daily, with no thought about when you take a PDF and you print it or print to PDF, you're basically flattening it, removing all of the structure that's been built into there, if any. So that's something I really try to avoid now. I talked a little bit about the headings used for visual size, kind of like just bold text instead of saying having a heading one and then subheadings that a screen reader can play nicely with. Tables or charts saved as images. If it's just an image, a screen reader's not going to know. You can tell it what the image is, I guess, but better to set those things from the source in a way that allows assistive tech to work with it. Content issues, decorative images marked as actual content. This is something that's easy to remediate within most Office products. Just a simple right click and mark as decorative. Same thing with alt text. If you have an image that would give some kind of information to someone using assistive tech, you want to make sure to add a description of what that is. Another one that I've definitely done on multiple occasions, the click here links, which was something is someone who looks at a web page. I've never had to use assistive tech. It didn't occur to me, but people who, are visually impaired might be just going through the links. So they're not looking at it in the same way, processing it in the same order that I am. So definitely, if you publish any links, click here for ASU accessibility guidelines, and that kind of thing. Source issues. This first one here, the scanned PDFs with no optical character recognition. This would be an often one or a pretty common one if someone gave you a scan or just like a printed document and you scanned it to a PDF. Um, there are tools built into like Adobe so you can build that OCR. So then from there you can kind of continue with your tagging and ordering, but definitely something to be mindful of if you're ever scanning something into a PDF. And images containing large numbers of text. That one kind of goes without saying. It can be difficult even if you don't usually struggle with vision impairment. Um, The next slide, I just wanted to quickly look at a real world kind of example. I built this off of a PDF that I put together months ago now when I was learning how to use Equidocs. So on the left-hand side, I labeled it as inaccessible. These are both accessible documents, but just for the sake of this, you can't really tell with your eyes anyway. So on the left, we have inaccessible. Next to our heading, built-in accessibility features, macOS. So for this example, this is just bold text. In the HTML, it's set to be large. But there is no heading one denoted there. So a screen reader is not going to know that's our heading one. And then table visually formatted, but not tagged as a table. So again, it's just to a screen reader, a bunch of jumbled up mess. It doesn't know how to interpret it. Over on the right-hand side, as you can see, the point A is a real heading. So it's actually our semantic heading one. All headings below will be real heading twos. Oh, my light just turned off. And obviously we can see we have our a real tag table that was built as a table from the ground up. We have our rows, our header row is defined, so it knows that like this top part is not the same as everything below it. Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to show that to give some just a visual representation, excuse me. Um, because this is one of the things, not necessarily only with PDFs, but I've seen it in my department with HTML as well, where we would have, some kind of template that we would be building off for, say, knowledge base articles. And then I go into it now that I'm working on this accessibility stuff, and I notice, our headings aren't denoted. Like, okay, like this isn't good. Like we have to remake this. So that's another project I'm working on, but won't go into that right now. But yes, structure, PDFs, anything, just make sure you're using real structure instead of just visual formatting. What to look for. I got a little bit redundant here. I apologize. But anyway, just really quick. Headings, is there real structure? Tables, are they tagged? Not screenshots. Images, do they have clear alt text or are they denoted as decorative so screen readers know to kind of ignore them? Links, again, make them descriptive. Reading order, does the content read in the right sequence? This is one that I used to use Equidocs to check. Now I'm trying to get more familiar with Adobe Acrobat and their accessibility features. Because this will tell, a screen reader what sequence to decipher things in. So if it's not laid out correctly there, it won't work for anyone using assistive tech. And text you can select, not a scan. This kind of goes back to that OCR. So if you do scan something into Adobe, like you take a scan, you make it a PDF, you do have to kind of take that into account that you need to use the tools available to create that order. It won't just exist. Um, okay. How it has evolved. Again, I don't want to get into too much about, version numbers. Obviously, in the beginning, we started with basic HTML accessibility, which, I mean, was a much simpler time. HTML is an accessible language. As time went on, HTML didn't always cut it, for more complex things we're seeing now, more advanced UIs. That's why we have things like ARIA attributes, so we can have something a little bit more granular to tell assistive tech, like, hey, this is how you interact with this thing. Um, and like we've seen, content that looks fine can fail modern requirements. It's not all what we see, it's how technology sees things as well. So we always have to be mindful of that. Okay, I'm gonna move along from here. Quick wins. Um, this again was redundant. I also want to share that this is part of a presentation that I shared with my group just to kind of tell them, hey guys, here's some things we should think about. And in the end of that presentation, I included some resources just to kind of help bring us as a group closer to ASU's central accessibility mission. Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna get into too many of these. I know everyone on this call, most of you are probably way more advanced with accessibility than I am, but yeah, just wanted to put this one out there. And thank you guys for listening. I hope this wasn't too much of me just rambling. I definitely am still learning. It's been a joy to like get into all this stuff, come to these meetings, and really just, explore this whole world. I think it's amazing, and I think it's so closely tied to like all the things I really love about ASU. So, oh, I put the do the next right thing. This is honestly, I don't know about all you guys, but back in the COVID times, I was working for ASU, spent a lot of time at home working remotely, and my son was about 3 years old at that time, so there was a lot of Frozen 2 on, and I come back to that, the do the next right thing saying quite a bit in my life, as corny as it is, just because it is easy to be at work and think, what do I do? You feel like you're drowning. And, sometimes you just have to stop and say, do the next right thing, whatever's good, however I can make an impact. And yeah, we've talked about legal compliance, all this and that, which that stuff is important. But I really do believe, when we lead with empathy, when we design things with real people in mind, and we don't look at these accessibility rules as much as guidelines and more so just, hey, I want everyone to be able to participate, and feel welcome. I think the compliance kind of falls in line with that. So yeah, with that, that is all I have.
Nice job.
Yeah,
Nice.
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great. That was great.
Thank you.
Well done, Lauren.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any questions about this wonderful presentation? And we have one, Mariana.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation.
Of
My
course.
question would be that at ASU, faculty has websites sometimes, and sometimes different schools got websites as well. Are those websites somehow auto-checked for accessibility? Because in general, if you are, I mean, I'm doing another website, for a kind of in my private life too, and I don't see that there would be an accessibility check there just when I'm building a website. So are the ASU linked website, are those auto checked for accessibility, or the faculty and the school needs to do something about it? I'm not talking about Canvas site. I'm talking about like if a faculty has his or her own website, or if the school started to do a website.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, it's not something that happens automatically. I can tell
Okay.
you that. Um,
So what to
but
do then?
what to do? So this reminds me of actually, I think it was the first accessibility liaisons meeting I ever came to last year. They talked about this program that's in use at ASU, and I'm sure there are other people on here that could probably tell you more about this, but it's a service called Site Improve. I think Nate
Cite
has
and
his hand.
proof.
Cite and proof, yes. And it basically uses, and I apologize to the more technical people on here, like web crawlers. They crawl the website and they look for broken links, contrast issues, all of those things that will flag web content accessibility guidelines errors.
And is it something what we have a link at ASU too, or Cite and proof? I'm just typing a Google search for that.
Oh yeah.
Check
Uh,
the chat. There's lots of links going on right now.
Oh, are there? Okay, good. I'm glad
oh,
people are
in the
chiming in.
chat, there are links. Okay, great. Then I just like maybe go to the chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for asking that question. That is,
Oh,
really good to
of
keep in
course.
mind.
Yeah, I have a practical mind, I think.
Awesome.
Nate, your question.
It's not a question. I was just going to add more information for Mariana.
Thank you, Nate.
And Lauren did a fantastic job. Yes, we have Site Improve that does an accessibility check and then gives you kind of a score on your site. It only catches about 30% of accessibility issues within your site, but there are so training up on web accessibility is probably the next thing for you, because then that teaches you how to look for very specific things related to your sites that Site Improve doesn't check. And the accessibility site, accessibility.asu.edu site has a lot of content in there that can help guide you. But to be honest, Mariana, if you want a first pass, Site Improve would be kind of like your first understanding of like where does your site stand in terms of meeting accessibility standards. Okay.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Jewel.
Jewel. Jewel, we can't hear you.
Oh.
Oh, did we lose you?
No,
No,
she's there.
Oh,
talking,
okay.
but she's not on mute, but just no audio coming through.
Oh, goodness.
Still can't hear you.
Oh, here, I'm gonna stop my share list.
What about now?
Yes.
We got-
Okay, great. I just wanted to also add for Mariana, and correct me if I'm wrong, but based upon what I've learned about Site Improve, unless it's an asu.edu domain, it can't be added, because in the library we have a platform where we've got one of our platforms that is not the asu.edu domain line, and we can't add it. We can add other sections of that platform that have the correct domain structure, but not all of it. And then the other part is I would highly recommend signing up for the practical accessibility course if you haven't already. It's fantastic, and it's available, as far as I know, to anybody who wants to take it. And it's just going to give you pretty much all the information you might want in terms of learning accessibility.
Jewel,
Perfect.
can you
Yeah.
drop that link in the chat to enroll in that course? I also dropped the DQ course in the chat too. That's another place you could go check out more information. Glenda.
Hey guys, thank you so much for your help with this. So, question, I understand, the background on WCAG, right? Where as of June 2024, I believe, right, the Department of Justice issued that final ruling requiring all public-facing content to meet level 2 accessibility standards by April 2026. So, my question to this group is, I know this includes Canvas course materials, websites, videos, electronic documents, etc. So I head the instructional design team at Thunderbird. And so we're putting a lot of effort into making our courses compliant, our documents, etc. It's a gigantic undertaking. It's not something that we started doing back in 2024. It's something we're doing now, essentially. So my question is, what does this look like? I mean, I understand that failure to comply with these regulations puts our institution at risk of legal actions and fines, but what are we looking at here? Does this mean that we're going to have, outside agents looking through our content, looking and making sure that our content is compliant? Does it mean that those that rely on it know that they can fine or sue the institution for not being compliant? Like, what are we looking at? Like, what does it look like as of April 2026 if our courses are not compliant?
So I'll do my best to answer this question, because I don't think there's we really will know, but by April, a few things could happen, right? The federal government could start to kind of go and audit public institutions, et cetera, like that, for accessibility, where they go, how they go, and what they're looking for, who knows? The other thing too, there could be also third-party entities like I call them ambulance chasers, who their whole goal in life is to find some company who has one site that's not accessible or doesn't meet some accessible standards, and then they start a litigation against it or something like that. And then there's like this third one where it's like a student, right, hits a barrier, right, within a particular site, and the barrier isn't addressed or the student isn't getting that immediate support to help them out, and then it goes to some sort of litigation kind of. It could be any of those type of three things. But if we're talking about course materials, um, the idea to make sure all courses meet an accessibility standard is daunting and seems a little bit not feasible. I think the idea is what course materials out there that are still actively used and are in the public eye, those are the ones you address. Anything that's not in circulation anymore, archive them. Okay. Right. And that applies to not just course, that applies to your PDFs, et cetera. If it's not actively being used or in public circulation, just archive them and prioritize the ones that are going to be used from semester to semester, so forth. That should help narrow down your scope and your backlog of ever. I think people think we got to remediate everything. That's not feasible. Remediate what's actually being used. If you can reduce your scope, right, down to a manageable chunk, then there's you just worry about that, and then that helps you kind of be able to make sure all your bases are covered, in terms of, but in terms of like I said, how this is going to all play out come after April, like, are there's like an agency that's come and like spy on everybody? I don't know. But the idea and this is the other thing I've been told, and don't quote me on this, but this is what I've been told. If by chance it's a federal entity that comes and does an audit, the chances are it's just not like we're just going to have to owe a bunch of money. Chances are they're going to say, we have discovered this. What's your remediation plan? And we just have to have a plan ready, right? And then they'll come back. You said the plan, we'll remediate this in 6 months, and they'll come back in 6 months and they'll check up on you. So in anything, I recommend anything we all do, have a plan towards what you're going to remediate in case by chance some entity comes and say like, oh, we've discovered this. You say, oh, we are in the works of doing this. We're working toward it. We have a plan to have it done. Like, and they're usually, this is what I'm being told. They're going to be like, okay, we'll come back in so many months and check up on it. So I think the idea would be just try to reduce your scope of work, right? In terms of reading it as best as you can, right? Clean up your sites. If there's pages that don't need to be published anymore, have old comment, remove them. Like if there's course materials that aren't in circulation anymore, remove them. If there's public content like PDFs that don't need to be in the public eye or used for anything anymore, archive them, and then just focus on anything that's actively being present. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. This is the first time that I actually have this discussion. I feel like everybody has it in their mind. Like we all know the day, we all know the history, but what happens in April, right?
We really don't know to be honest, what really happened. The other thing too is I just thought of something. And then once again, it slipped my mind. Alejandra, when she's talking to me, this always happens to me. I just kind of lose my train of thought. But there was something else in there I wanted to bring up to scoring, right? So Site Improve gives you a score, right? Everybody wants to give you a score that tell you like, how well your remediation meets some sort of a standard, right? And everybody's all striving for 100%. 100% on anything in this is not realistic. Okay. Plus, the WCAG doesn't give you like you need to have a scoring between this and this, and you're okay. It doesn't. It's all about like addressing what could be a barrier. And though scoring will give us a good idea of like where we stand, you can't, if you show, a site improved score of 95% to some federal agency, they'll say, okay, good job, but we still found that there was this barrier here, right? So use it as like a guide, the scoring for any tools that we use it as a guide, but take a step and think about, if I were a student, am I going to hit a barrier anywhere in my process? If I go to our site and you go through, use the screen reader, like, does it get hung up on something, right? Is it you want to just kind of go through and just make sure that you catch anything outside of what the scoring, because the scoring is just kind of like, hey, you're on the right track, but it's not going to do you any good, right? If somebody finds a barrier. So think about, like, can somebody do that has some sort of a disability, can they do the same thing as someone who doesn't have a disability regarding any of your work streams in your area? If they can, I think you're in good shape, right? Getting 100%, that's unrealistic. I know we're higher ed, an academic institution. We want to get A pluses, but just look at it as like, can one person do the same thing as the next person without any difficulties, right? Or if they come across a difficulty, what kind of support is ready for them that you guys swarm and handle? That's the next bit. If you have a barrier that's been brought to your attention, what process do you have in place that a team can swarm and help out? Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all for providing all of these additional resources. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? There's a lot of great resources in the chat, by the way. Unbelievable. I love the crowdsourcing. It's so great. So great. Okay, Nate, you had some announcements and conversation topics you wanted to bring up.
Sure. Yeah, I do. I got a few for the group here. I'm hiring for an IT accessibility lead for my team for digital accessibility within enterprise technology. This person would be kind of like what I'm doing now, participation in the DAO groups, working with the provost, working with OGC, working with sales, right? Being kind of a forward thinker when it comes to digital accessibility, working with web teams, mobile development teams, et cetera, like that, trying to build a culture around not just digital accessibility, but also within just accessibility as a whole. So I've got a position out there. You can find it on the career link at ASU. We have a channel, right, for this group too, Alejandra?
Our channel is the accessibility channel. We don't
Okay,
really
so we don't have a DAO group yet. Okay,
Yeah.
that's, I know we were talking about something like that, but
we could make one, but that would just be exclusive just to the digital accessibility liaisons, not anybody external. Because people on
exactly.
this, because people on this call, there's also external people to that group.
Yeah, and I dropped it in the there's a channel called like IT positions Slack, so I dropped it in there. So if you're interested or you know somebody within your community, doesn't have to be within ASU. If you're part of accessibility community outside of ASU that may have an interest, feel free to share that link. More applicants, the better. The other update is an agenda rubric for this group, right? And I've kind of bounced this off Alejandra a few times. Though it would be nice to have like a Lauren come and present, or to presentation, having a presentation and trying to get a presentation every time we meet, that might be a little difficult. Instead, we should also have opportunities where this group can bring topics to discuss and we can bounce things off of each other. And so it really be this agenda rubric would be just like, what qualifies as a topic, basically, giving updates on, certain things. Yeah, those are good, but we want to generate conversation and collaboration. So I'm working on an agenda rubric for this group. Once done with that, I'll distribute. You guys can, tear it apart and tell me how terrible it is. And then we'll work it to a point where we have something like, okay, I need to bring something to the group. Does it fit this rubric and agenda? It does. Let's get it on the table and for all of us to discuss. And then the last thing is PDFs, right? So I kind of briefly said, talked about, it's not feasible to remediate everything. We need to really make sure what's in the public eye or being circulated is the priority to remediate. That definitely applies to PDFs too. Not sure if you guys know, we have like 22 million PDFs in the ASU world. That's a lot of PDFs. And to remediate all 22 million, that's not realistic, right? Um, so the goal is to prioritize what should be remediated in your areas and work towards remediation. We do have Equidocs, and we are renewing Equidocs for another year at an enterprise level. However, part of this PDF strategy that we should think about and how to approach will entail assessing maybe a tool that maybe is more highly adopted, right? And I am looking at potential options, and I would love members from this group to be like a focus group if you want to participate in some different PDF remediation tools. If you are, let me know. Uh, the goal is within like the next 6 months, we have a recommendation like, hey, the community prefers this tool, or could it even be a couple tools, right? Depending on the scenario. But nonetheless, regardless, tool agnostic, right? We have to make sure that we prioritize what type of PDFs we are willing to remediate, and then pull out of circulation anything that's not going to be used anymore, just to reduce your backlog of PDFs to remediate. I think that's Alejandro, I think that's all my updates today. Rubric, PDF strategy, IT lead position. Yep, that's it.
Wonderful. Mariana, you have another question.
Yeah, I have a question to Nat. Do you have, is there, so the person you are looking for digital accessibility, is that person, so should the person be an IT person? I might know someone who has a STEM degree who might be interested. So what would be, could you drop the job announcement link to the chat maybe?
Yeah. Look, give me 1 minute. I'll go find it, and I'll drop the link if it hasn't been already dropped in the chat.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
And then you can use it. Okay.
But do you know, so is it like it must be an IT person, or it can be whatever with technical ability or
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like someone who has a degree in like some sort of IT, but this is IT focused accessibility. So very much digital accessibility. So they would have to have a sound understanding of web apps, websites, mobile, in addition to certain certifications related to accessibility, and a good solid understanding of WCAG. So it's digital focused accessibility. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, but it can be without a particular degree if the person demonstrated, let's say, I don't know. Okay.
It probably, I can't remember what the job description, but it probably say, it could have some IT degree or this other, or combination of, experience.
Right? It might be here. I think someone dropped it, maybe.
Let me scroll it. Wow, a lot of chat going on in here. Let's take a look. Courtney, let's take a look at this.
Nate, I've got the list of people for your PDF group.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, when I get that moving,
all right,
we will kind of get together and discuss. All right, so let me take a look at the link. It's pulling up right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Let's see here. All right. Yes, IT accessibility lead. Let me go down to the
IT accessibility lead. Okay.
Yeah, let me see. Desired qualifications. Yeah, that's right. I don't have anything where like they have to have some sort of true IT background or a degree in IT. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so yep, just somebody who has experience with the digital realm plus accessibility.
Yeah, that's what the person has whom I have in mind.
Yeah, have them apply.
Yep. Thank
Yeah, or
you.
have this person apply. Thank you. Yeah.
Nate, there's a question in the chat. Would this person report to you?
Yes. This person will report to me. It if you look on the posting, you'll say supervisory organization. So it'll be my group, which is operational design and web experience. Any other questions about the job posting that I can answer today while you have me?
I think that's it.
Javier has one. It is a hybrid position. So ET has a hybrid policy, 3 days in, 2 days work from home.
I'm not seeing what's the deadline? Ah, I see it. Never mind.
Yep.
It's the end of
Yep.
the
The
month.
27th. So
Yeah.
not this Friday, but the following Friday.
Mhm. All right. Any more questions? Glenda, go right ahead.
Okay, so this is mostly for any participants in this meeting that work within Canvas, right, with course content. So what I've been asking my team to do, because by far, I think one of our most difficult items to remediate is PDFs, right? And so if you don't have that source file, it's very, very difficult. You essentially have to recreate the file to make it accessible. So what I'm asking my team to do, even though we want, most of the time, we want to upload PDFs within the Canvas course pages. I'm asking them to still upload the original source file, whether that be a PowerPoint or a Word document within the Canvas, files, so that then we don't have to go back to the faculty member to request those source files. We have them there, so in case we need to update anything on them, we have the source file. Is there anyone else around here that has another guidance on how that might be accomplished so we don't have that many files within the course pages? But any ideas on how other teams are addressing this?
Yeah, we actually have a
Um,
a work stream that is kind of focusing on faculty and faculty courses as part of the meeting the accessibility mandate. It might be Alejandro, you're in those two. We just had the meeting this morning. Like, how does one from Glenda's area get connected with this work stream? So information that's being discussed and shared and worked through that unit has a representative.
Right. So you'd be reaching out to somebody called an accessibility lead, which is different from a liaison. A liaison's through enterprise technology. A lead would be through the provost's office. So that could be your first place. I'm in the process of creating resources for remediating PDFs, including training, a decision tree, and all the fun things. So that will also be helpful. Number three, your instructional designer team. I mean, you're the instructional design lead, right? So how does the instructional design team manage this? Well, I think perhaps your first go at this is, do they need the PDF? Does that particular content need to be in a PDF? And then figure out what to do. And you're doing the right things. I want to validate that you are doing the right things. What is the source and how do you fix it? If you don't have the source document, then what do you do? Well, then you would use Adobe Acrobat Remediator or Equidox, whatever works. But if there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of PDFs, that might be also a question about design. So I can talk more about this with you offline if you'd like. It sounds like a broader conversation, but so you're more than welcome. We can set up an appointment and talk. But I would also encourage you to reach out to your accessibility lead through the provost office to be able to get the resources you need because, it's just a matter of just actually doing it at this point. If it's that overwhelming, though, we should probably think about a broader plan. So, does that help?
Yeah, it does. And I understand that might be me because I don't think that the individuals that we had at one point as accessibility leads left. They're no longer with Thunderbird, and then two other individuals were asked to attend, but the reality is they're not really working at the level that we're working. And so it might be me attending those meetings. So I might be the lead, the lead as well as the liaison. And so anyway, I would love to talk to you more about how to address this for sure. Thank you.
For sure. My calendar should be up to date. So, or send me a Slack message and we'll figure it out. Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
Mariana.
I'm so sorry for that, talking so much. So I have regarding using less PDF. When it is my course, I hardly use PDF, and I have a huge resistance among my colleagues regarding that. What I am doing in Canvas, I am doing a Canvas page. And so because most of the time, it is the traditional approach that you do a document and then you convert it to PDF file, and that is what you offer to students. But actually, it is not needed. What I see in my case is that if I want to relay some information, I can do that as well in a Canvas page where besides it, so it is easier to make it accessible than a PDF file, and at least that is my finding and or my experience. And even before the accessibility was such a central issue, it is just easier to edit. Like if I wanna change my content, then I go there to the Canvas page and I change it, and then I call it a day. So it's very easy. Instead of doing something on my computer, finding that file, saving a new version of that, making sure that the name is the same and upload it, just like redo the file. But usually faculty don't like that. I'm just saying that maybe it could be something which is a recommendation if anyone agrees with that. It's really much easier to work without PDF on Canvas. And it can be. It can be. Thank you. That's just a remark.
Oh, thank you. Nate, you are on mute.
I am on mute. Okay, just real quick. Are you all aware of Grackle? Grackle. Okay. So we have a few people that are aware of Grackle. So if by chance you need to create new content, right, that will eventually be a PDF at some point, and you use the Google Suite tools like Slides or Docs, spreadsheets, you can install the Grackle plugin or add the Grackle plugin to your Google Suite and address accessibility issues at the content creation phase of your work. Okay. So we have purchased this. It's available. It should be available to everybody. I just tried it out the other day. It works pretty good, right? A little bit of a learning curve. So Mariana, if faculty are creating new content and they use Google Suite tools, they can address accessibility at the content creation stage, right? And then when they convert it to PDF, most of it should pass over, but I think sometimes not everything. And then you can run it through a PDF remediation checker after that, if you're going to go the PDF route. But if not, right, at least you have Grackle at the creation stage or in the source phase of the doc. And also Microsoft Office has built-in accessibility checkers too. FYI. All right. You know what? That's a good question. I don't know if Grackle is browser dependent. I did on Chrome without a
It is
problem.
on Chrome. I know Chrome, it works perfectly on Chrome. Does anybody use Firefox at all and does it work in Firefox, Jewel?
I haven't added it yet because when you last announced it, I don't think it was quite ready for us to add on. And so I haven't tried adding it since I really don't use Google Suite much. So, but I wanted to add it so I could try it out.
Yeah, if you add it with Firefox, let us know how it turned out.
Yeah, Joanna, search for the extension in Google, just say, or when you get into Google Docs, you can look for the extensions there and you can search for it there. And I think I created some kind of like way to search for it in the accessibility channel. I'm going to find it and make it doc and pin it to the channel. So, okay, it is 11. Thank you so much for your time. If you'd like to participate in any of the fun events that we're hosting for the Digital Accessibility Liaisons, please feel welcome to reach out. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.